on Showdown to figure out how to use Azumarill. First that we're going to be looking at is Belly Drum Azumarill. This is a terrifying Pokemon because it gets set up so quick and it's very reliable. That what we do is we use Belly Drum and Citrus Berry to kind of manipulate this. That it does cut your attack to half and it maximizes your attack. Well, with Citrus Berry, it's going to drop you to half, which means that now you get a quarter of your hit points back, so you're only at 75%. With 100 base hit points and 80 base defenses. It's very difficult to knock out this Pokemon without a super effective hit. And even then, if it's a weak super effective hit, Azumarill still has a small chance of surviving, which even makes it scarier. And after that, you just priority sweep and your opponent can't do anything about it. That when we look at this, you know, the attack is going to be 112 at level 50. So I just wanted to show the level 50 stats because that's what makes sense for the EVs. You are going to need even hit points on this. So 206, that's just going to cut down into half, and then you're good to go from there. At level 100, it does change just a little. So we're going to have to look at that. Actually, you can be the same, but with this, you can actually put more into it. You can max out your hit points, and it'll still be safe for the Belly Drum. Only at level 50, or only at level 100. Level 50 is going to be for the game. Level 100, this set right here, is more going to be for simulators, and that's kind of how it plays out. So, I mean, you look at it, that attack is at 218. That's going to double to 416, and then that's going to quadruple because of the way that Belly Drum works, maximizing your attack. And then you just throw out ridiculous Aqua Jets. So now we're just going to have Stab, we're going to have Priority, and really if you're not resisting it, that's going to be a KO in many situations, and even some resisted KOs will be found on this. So you put Azumarill with Stealth Rocks or Spikes, just softening up your opponent, guaranteeing those KOs even more, or you bring it later on in the game where a lot of your opponent's power has been reduced, and now Azumarill does some very scary things. At the same time, it is that risk reward, that if you don't score that KO with Aqua Jet, well, now you're low from setting up Belly Drum, you know, potentially taking a Retribution hit, and that could be pretty bad. Knock Off and Play Rough or just coverage. If you find that you're going up against a super, like, stally wall Pokemon, you can use those moves to kind of break them down a little more reliably. On that, people will like running Choice Band Azumarill. They just kind of come in and soak up hits while dishing out stronger hits back. Against Dragon-type Pokemon, Play Rough is going to obliterate them, or you can just kind of priority with Aqua Jet. Huge Power Choice Band on Aqua Jet, you can find some 2-3 hit KOs on this, and it's all going to be priority, so you're going to at least be able to knock out an opponent and then do a little more on top of that. Again, Knock Off and Superpower, it's just huge coverage at this point that you can pretty much hit many things super effective, or at least get strong neutral hits on that Play Rough that could just Choice Band Play Rough with this can turn into neutral KOs as well. So the idea is you want to try to survive as many hits as possible, potentially throwing out 1 or 2 KOs with a little bit of chip damage if you are using Aqua Jet because it's priority like that. And then it's pretty much going to be the same thing, max out the hit points, max out the attack, go with that extra point in defense because it's just going to make you slightly more durable. You might also even see Assault Vest Azumarill, or you might want to use that for yourself. That now you're just making it to where you're going to be super bulky on your weaknesses, because most likely you're going to be seeing an Energy Ball, a Thunderbolt, a Sludge Bomb, and those are special attacks. So now you have a chance of enduring that and then throwing back some stronger hits, and then trying to finish them off with an Aqua Jet under that priority. And again, that's pretty much what Azumarill is going to do. This is also going to give you durability instead of being locked into a Choice Band. And at the same time, sometimes you might see a Life Orb even on a Azumarill because it's just going to be for that extra damage, and then you do have the freedom to switch moves. And other than that, you might also see a Lumberry. That way, if they try to burn you, well, that's a Lumberry. They waste a turn, eat a Play Rough, and get killed, pretty much idea. And that's Azumarill. It's pretty much going to be damage, and then you do have the freedom to switch moves. And other than that, you might also see a Lumberry. That way, if they try to burn you, well, that's a Lumberry. They waste a turn, eat a Play Rough, and get killed, pretty much.
Home is where your couch and your Wi-Fi are. And with free 2-day shipping, you can order your Wi-Fi early so you can get online as soon as your couch gets...
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Low amount of offense, low amount of speed, but I mean, that defense, though, got a really good, just like pure physical tank, as well as you can make it work in special defense as well. Looking at its poison typing, we see something a bit different right now. Its main ability is Levitate, and that means it's going to be immune to ground types instead of weak against them, so you have 5 resistances and 1 weakness. That's incredibly excellent for a defensive typing. Like, Weezing has a lot of just sustainability. It's really hard to really hit it hard, and when you're only weak against Psychic, which isn't really that common, you can make a lot of work happen right now. That you have a lot of resistances against some common threats like Fairy right now, and then on top of that, you know, a lot of neutral hits isn't bad at all. The immunity can be really nice too. You keep Weezing on your team, you see that you predict them using an Earth move, you know, just switch in Weezing and now you get free setup. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown. Goodness gracious. This is kind of going to be a vague episode. I'm going to give the heads up right now. There's going to be a lot of mix and match that normally with my strategy guides, I more see them as templates, not like hardcore guides that you need to follow. That if you think something should be different, go ahead and change it. That, you know, it does create a lot of freedom, it does create a lot of things that you can change for yourself and keep aspects that you want to have for your team. And that's why I leave a lot of open ends sometimes, that, you know, you can't do everything in Pokemon. I'll admit that it's a bit of that. And at the same time, you know, anyone can do what they want. I'm not going to say you can't run something some way. I'm just going to give them what I think is better options and what you can probably go from there with. So with Weezing, it can do a lot of things. That I'm mostly going to talk about 2 main EV spreads and then talk about all the other moves that it can use. That what I see here is that if you go with the hit points and special defense, max those out, go with the defensive nature since you're getting the most out of that stat, you can make Weezing a very strong Pokemon. You also can go with the special defense nature as well. I just don't like trying to waste those points by putting something in a lesser nature, but if you want to have more special defense, go ahead and do it. Because with Pain Split, you're going to be cutting your opponent's attack in half, so it really doesn't matter too much. And the idea is you become a huge special defense tank, throw out the Pain Split, you lower their offensive capabilities, then you become a very well-rounded tank, and you can do a lot from there. That Pain Split gives you sustain, Black Sludge gives you sustain. Since you're a poison type, you can't get toxic, which means you're not going to become burned down over time. And at the same time, it gets Stockpile and Infestation. So between Will-O-Wisp and Infestation, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to them over the course of several turns. And with Stockpile, you become almost incredible, like just almost impossible to knock out. Top of that, you can also just run Weezing as a pure defensive tank that has a ton of utility. You have Haze, Taunt, Clear Smog, Destiny Bond. Whatever moves you feel you can sneak in, go for it. You can have a bit of offensive mixed with Destiny Bond. You can have Haze if you want to make sure that, you know, your opponent isn't going to gain a huge edge and be able to like keep that edge. You also have Clear Smog because if you're using Stockpile, Haze will remove your stockpiles. So Clear Smog is for the Stockpile or Curse sets, because Weezing also gets Curse with its other craziness that it can do. Also, it has a lot of offensive like bulk. You can use Thunderbolt, Sludge Bomb, Fire Blast, Flamethrower. And Fire Blast and Flamethrower are really good moves on Weezing because it's poison. What does it get walled out by? Steel. What's Steel weak against? Fire. What does Weezing get? Fire. Cool. So a lot of the things do round out really well for Weezing because it just has a naturally crazy move pool with utility across the board and shenanigans everywhere. On top of that, we can also look at some other example sets. I was thinking you can go with like Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, Haze, Flamethrower as an example. You know that this will be a good way of eliminating stat changes, keep your opponent down physically, and then having the Flamethrower Will-O-Wisp damage to just eventually knock out a lot of opponents as they're helpless. I would recommend running this one with the Special Defense set. On top of that, another more Special Defense one is that with the Curse Payback, Curse is going to give you a lot of offense, Payback is going to do a lot of damage, then you can hold on to Destiny Bond if you feel that, you know, they're bringing a special attacker, you maybe have 1 or 2 hits left in you, then you have Pain Split for the sustain. And then we can also go for one that uses more of the defensive utility. That you don't really worry about special defense. You have a special defense tank on your team already, like Florges or Sylveon, or something that's meant to absorb those special hits. Then you can just go with Toxic Flamethrower, Clear Smog, and Protect, or Haze, or something like that. So with this, you know, again, this would be a good spot for Haze. The Pain Split with Stockpile could have a good slot for Haze. That, you know, it's whatever you can really fit that your team needs. Do you need a mixed tank? Do you need a defensive tank? Do you need a special defensive tank? Weezing can kind of fit into all those rules and provide a lot of disruption. Now with this, you're pretty much going to be relying on damage from Toxic to burn them down while you protect, gain health from leftovers, and then Clear Smog if they try to do anything fishy. And at the same time, you can also run Haze on this one as well. That's kind of like the Clear Smog. It's a little extra chip damage on top of the Toxic and Flamethrower. But since you're not statting up yourself, you might as well try to, you know, stop the Steel types and Pokemon that are subbing as well. And on top of that, I think that's it. We have just a lot of ways to run Weezing, a lot of craziness. You can set up, you can just be a status whore that, you know, if they have a lot of physical on their team, Will-O-Wisp, switch out, Will-O-Wisp, switch out, Will-O-Wisp, switch out. Switch back in and stuff, and then you have Flamethrower to cover your Steel weaknesses, while also you can do a lot of other things like the Toxic set, that you Toxic, spread that around, throw around some Pain Split, end it with a Destiny Bond. Weezing has just a lot of things. You really get to build your own Pokemon with this one, and you can do almost anything you want with it. So Weezing, good Pokemon. If you guys enjoyed the video, that's how you use Weezing. I couldn't do a cough on command. I think that would have been a little...
You love meeting with your clients in the field.
Sizes, all the dimensions of this clear to
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlisify, and this is how to use Simipour. Now, Simipour is the last of the elemental monkeys in Pokedex order, and just by looking at it, it's the same stats as the other one, but these stats are actually in a pretty usable area. Now, this Pokemon isn't going to go and destroy everything, but it does have some consistency cases where it's going to be pretty nice, and you can also just kind of do whatever with it. 98 attack, 98 special attack, choose one, try to get some damage out of it, and you might find some success. Also, 101 speed. Not bad, not insane, but I mean, you're outspeeding 100 base speed Pokemon, which is a lot of Pokemon when you start to break it down. So, as long as you're outspeeding those, as long as you're not getting outsped yourself, the defenses don't really matter, but at the same time, they are low defenses. So you have to be very cautious of any kind of powerful hit or any just super effective hit. However, being a pure water typing, your super effective hits aren't really that bad. That Simisage as a grass type Pokemon, even Simisear as a fire type Pokemon, these Pokemon have way more weaknesses than Simipour, and a lot of them are a lot more common. So Simipour, electric, grass, that's it. You also have some decent resist, so if you come in on the right kind of move and you go for your setup from there, you might be able to make it work out. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we're going to see Simipour's options are pretty solid. So Hydro Pump, Ice Beam. Being a water type Pokemon is so good right here for the special attacking set. I mean, you have water and ice. You also get grass knot. So water, ice, and grass coverage is going to be really good. You don't have to worry about rolling for hidden power or anything. You just get up and go with a pretty solid moveset, and then you have Nasty Plot. Nasty Plot is very powerful. It's going to raise your special attack by 2 stages. So it's the Swords Dance for special attack, and that means if we just go, Timid Nature, max out speed, max out that special attack, get the doubling in there, everything could line up just right for Simipour. So with its ability Torrent, when it drops below a third of hit points, water attacks do 50% more damage. So I mean, we're going Nasty Plot, we're doubling it right there, and if we somehow find a way of getting another Nasty Plot that's tripling, 50% on top of that, with stab, with just high special attack investment. Now, even though it's only 98 base special attack, we're getting this much boost into it, could make a difference. And then we have Hydro Pump. 110 base power, but 80% accuracy. So you are playing a bit of an accuracy game. If you don't want to worry about that, you can run Surf. Only 20 less base power, but after all the boosting and stuff, the damage starts to add up. So Hydro Pump will find the KOs that Surf will not. Now Scald, I don't really consider it too much of an option. Now it does have perfect accuracy, but it is less damage than even Surf with only 80 base power. So again, all that's going to stack up, and you're losing out on a ton of damage. And even then, like Burn works for tankier Pokemon. Simipour as a more of a sweeper Pokemon, it's not really going to get much out of the burn, and you just really want to get all that Hydro Pump damage down. So the idea is use Focus Sash. Nasty Plot, you take damage, Focus Sash procs, Torrent keeps you up, and then you just use Hydro Pump. With the high base power from Hydro Pump, you can get away with that. Then you still have boosted Ice Beam and Grass Knot. So as long as you're outspeeding the opponent, you're going to do really, really well just from all of this setup. Also, my Simisear video didn't really mention it that, you just go Blaze with Fire Blast and then Focus Sash, and what this does is it removes the need for a Life Orb. Life Orb makes it a bit more gambly, that you have to go up against Pokemon that isn't going to one-shot you. Now with those defenses and hit points being low, that is going to be kind of difficult. But if you find that, then Life Orb damage with all that, going to be insane. But when we break down Fire Blast, it's actually better than Hydro Pump. Same amount of base power, 5% more accuracy, and a 10% chance to burn. So everything stacks up really well for that Hydro Pump doesn't have, so you can use Simisear in the same way if you want to. But again, its coverage isn't as insane. You're going to need hidden power. You do get access to the Grass Knot, which is kind of interesting, but then you also have to worry about like accuracy of Focus Blast or something. So Simipour going to be really solid on that special coverage. As for physical, Simipour cleans up just as well as the other elemental monkeys. I mean, you do have some pretty solid move tutor moves. Low kick, gunk shot, knockoff, then you combine that with the stab move, and that's going to be pretty nice. So the idea here is Jolly Nature, maxing out the speed, going attack, Life Orb, knock off for huge amounts of damage, you take a hit, you survive in Torrent range, then you try to get as much damage with Waterfall from there. If you're outspeeding, you might find the flinch, you just might find a lot of damage. Low kick is going to be some nice coverage, and gunk shot as well. As for other moves, you do have superpower, so if you don't want to run low kick and you want more damage, you can do superpower. You also get Ice Punch if you're running Focus Sash or something like that. Acrobatics can work, and then Ice Punch, just extra coverage on top of knockoff and Waterfall. It's going to be pretty solid. And then we do have your Gluttony setup. And depending on what you want to do, the toolkit is there, that if you want to run a special attacking Simipour, then you just go for the Patea Berry. If you want to go for a physical attacking Simipour, then you're going to want the Lychee Berry. So this is going to be a Patea Berry set. Now Patea Berry does give you some options. You can run Nasty Plot with this. That way you're going for +3 special attack, which could get insane, or you just kind of keep as much coverage as possible. You go for the Grass Knot, maybe even find like a Hidden Power Fire. That could be your other Hidden Power move if you want to squeeze it in. So Hidden Power Fire with all this is going to be very powerful. And then the Gluttony. The idea here is you either set up your nasty plot or you go for a knockoff. You take damage, you get dropped into below half, then Potato Berry activates, and now you're getting boosted damage on all these awesome moves right here. Also, another good move to put here is Superpower. Superpower, since it lowers your attack and defense by 1, you might as well just kind of play that Superpower damage. You use that, you get the huge hit out of the way, and then now you follow it up with an Ice Beam or Hydro Pump. And with Knockoff, that does have its benefits as well. Knockoff means you might remove their Life Orb, you might remove their Choice Band. If you remove an offensive item from them, well then that means they have less damage to retaliate back onto you if you're faster, because we are going to want a speed boosting nature with something like that. And if you do that successfully, then you have a better chance of surviving, getting into the Potato Berry, and that could be pretty solid as well. Now if we do run Gluttony with the Lychee Berry, that is going to be like knockoff and stuff. Maybe Superpower as a last resort, but you do have access to the Low Kick, which can be pretty nice. And in this case, I do recommend Acrobatics. Acrobatics is going to help, and then we have like Waterfall, so we can run something like that instead of Low Kick. We can still carry the Ice Punch. So we do have a lot of really interesting diversity right here, but this can get pretty solid because you get dropped below half, Lychee Berry activates. Well, now your Acrobatics power doubles if you have no held item. Cool, now you have a 110 base power move and you're getting all that boosting. In that case, we're going to want an Adamant Nature. Now with the Potato Berry, things get interesting. Timid does lower your attack, so say it's a Potato Berry set and stuff like that. Timid will lower your attack, so Knockoff does less damage. If you're not worried about knockoff damage, that's fine, but at the same time, if you go with like a hasty or a naive nature, that means we're lowering our defenses, so that might put us in one-shot range for certain Pokemon. So those are the risks. If you do it, I do recommend the naive nature. You're going to see some special attacks like Energy Ball or Giga Drain for super effective hits, and Thunderbolt and Thunder are more common than like Wild Charge and Thunder Punch. So if you want to play to that, if you're seeing a super effective hit, it's going to be special anyways. You might try to tank up any kind of other hit like that and then get below half, and then you're good to go. So that's going to be Simipour. It's like all the elemental monkeys. It has really good coverage. You can play it special, you can play it physical, you can play it with Torrent, you can play it with Gluttony. It's pretty much whatever you want it to be and whatever you feel is the best. There's really no set recommendation here. It's, do you want to go for Nasty Plot 101 base speed sweep, or do you want to find some other things around it? With the berries you can run Salac Berry and then go for the other nature. So Salac Berry is going to make you faster, going to take away a bit of damage overall, but then you can find other ways to play around it. Use Salac Berry with maybe Power Punch. Now you use Power Punch, you get hit below half, Salac Berry activates, you outspeed, you get damage, and then you still have good coverage, Acrobatics, Waterfall, Knockoff, stuff like that. So if you guys enjoyed the video, that's how you use Simipour. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Welcome back, Wolfpack Verlis here, and this is how to use Ho-Oh. So Ho-Oh, legendary Pokemon, legendary stats, craziness going for it, and that's going to show with a 154 special defense, so like Lugia, very high special defense, and 106 hit points. So especially, you don't have to worry about much, and then 90 on the defense means we're still going to be very tanky. Like 90 defense, 106 hit points, very strong by all means, and then we can just kind of look, 90 speed, not super insane, not going to outspeed Lugia or anything, but we're still also looking at decent speed here with a lot of tankiness, and then we have high amount of attack. 130 attack means we're just going to be bulk attacking. 110 special attack means we can even go for some special options, and Ho-Oh is just going to work out really well. Look at its typing, Fire Flying. Fire Flying solid, Water Electric weakness, that's not that bad, but a 4 times weakness to Rock. So our trade-off is we do have a pretty heavy 4 times weakness that we have to worry about. If Stealth Rocks is set up, Ho-Oh's in trouble, any kind of setup like that. But then we also have a lot of resistances. Ground immunity, and then a Fighting Bug, Steel, Fire, Grass, and Fairy with a quarter resistance of Grass. So everything's going to be pretty solid right here for Ho-Oh as long as you're not encountering rocks. We're tanky enough to survive some water and electric hits. So that's going to be pretty solid. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we're going to lead with the Choice Scarf Ho-Oh. And this is just going to be pretty standard. We max out the speed. We go with an Adamant Nature. That way we're pushing our damage. That, if you have a Choice Scarf, it's also good to just go with that offensive nature. And that's going to be very powerful right there. And then we go into Brave Bird and Sacred Fire. What makes Ho-Oh work so well is that offensively, it just has high base damage. Brave Bird, huge stab, huge physical hit. And we also have Sacred Fire, again, for just huge physical hit right there. And a 50% chance to burn. That's just silly right there. So we come in, we go for that coverage, Earthquake and Iron Head, just a little bit extra right there. Iron Head, good against Fairy type Pokemon that if we don't want to take Brave Bird recoil, we can get the most damage out of that. Also, Ho-Oh doesn't really have too much else physically to do. That's mainly just going to be Earthquake, Sacred Fire, and Brave Bird. So just adding that little bit of tech helps in. Maybe Aerial Ace if you are really worried about evasion boosting. That Aerial Ace really won't take too much from the set, and also does give you a flying option that isn't Brave Bird if you don't want to like break yourself against another opponent. And that's pretty simple, that we outspeed, we can take 2 or 3 hits, so we're just going to like scarf into that Brave Bird and hope for the best and get as much damage as possible, because 130 attack using Brave Bird. I mean, Talonflame has a much lower attack, and we know that it does some silliness with some damage, so now we can just scale that up to Ho-Oh and let your imagination run wild. And then we have Life Orb Ho-Oh, but I came up with a different idea with Flame Charge. So Flame Charge, 100% chance to raise the user's speed by 1, and that's going to be our speed boosting, that instead of having to worry about a Scarf, we can just Flame Charge once, and then we're good to go. Now we are taking that extra damage, but that's what Roost is for. Without Scarf, we are safe to Roost, so we can get a lot of health back. We are still very bulky, so we can play around that. And I was thinking Life Orb, that way we're maxing out our damage, and we can still go with something else like a Citrus Berry. That way we're getting the most of our health back. That say we take a huge hit while we're setting up that Flame Charge, Citrus Berry is going to pull us back up. That's going to give us room to Brave Bird into Roost, and it's just going to keep us very healthy overall. Sacred Fire with all that, and yeah, we just outspeed what we need to. Maybe even try to build up on the tankiness, that we can just go for max hit points against a Pokemon that's not directly threatening us. Go for 2 Flame Charges. I mean, we still have high amount of damage. Flame Charge is getting stabbed with that 50 base power. Using it twice is going to be like using 1 Sacred Fire, and that's going to be nice. So once we get that speed going, we just become a full-fledged sweeper, and that's really it. So that could be very powerful. Also, Ho-Oh, remember, we did have a good special attack stat. We did have a really good defensive stats, so we can just also go for Calm Mind and Will-O-Wisp. Ho has Will-O-Wisp, so that's going to make our defense really awesome, and then we can just Calm Mind up, and now we don't have to really worry about too much. So we burn them, that means our lower defense gets patched up. We go for some Calm Minds, and then we have Roost. So as long as we don't get Toxic, we can't get burned because we're a Fire-type Pokemon. That's going to be solid. I like the idea of Citrus Berry. You can also run Lumberry, that way you can wear off some status. This set can also deal with a Lumberry as well, that way if they try to paralyze you, hey, that's a free Flame Charge, because now your Lumberry is going to patch that up. And then we just kind of wait for the Flamethrower. Now this can get Flash Fired. That's kind of it. So you just try to set up really high special attack, get a lot of boosting on your side, use that Flamethrower once you're at like +3, +4, because it should be a really easy setup with Will-O-Wisp, Calm Mind. And when you break it down, it's kind of like a Sableye. That, like with Mega Sableye, you know, we have very high defenses. Sableye has low hit points, so having the higher hit points going to be better overall for our boosting. And then we just burn them, we status them as we need, we set up a bajillion Calm Minds, and then we just win. So it just shows that Ho-Oh is more of the outright attacker compared to Lugia, still has some good setup options. And as for Regenerator, Regenerator is going to be very powerful when you have access to it. So Regenerator with this set, you Brave Bird, you take a lot of damage back, and then you just kind of switch out. Regenerator is going to heal that up, bring in Ho-Oh when you need to, and you just have this really strong Brave Bird engine or Sacred Fire, you know. If you need to 2-hit KO Pokemon, hit, you take a hit, then you switch out Regenerator, going to bring a third of your maximum hit points back, and that's really it. So a lot of the good options here for Ho-Oh, very powerful, can be very strong as an offensive Pokemon against other legendaries. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's how you use Ho-Oh, and I hope you all have a nice day.
Feels like a dream, feels like magic. Now I believe I can have it.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Lantern. Lantern has a decent amount of stats that it has really good on the hit points. 125 base hit points is pretty awesome. But for the rest of it, you know, we don't have too much offensively and we don't have much speed, so we're really just thinking that this Pokemon is going to be a tank. However, 58 on the defense, it's not bad with that 125, but it could be better, but it's still pretty usable. Like, you can endure a fair amount of hits even with a 58 defense because of that 125 hit points. Same with the special defense. Because of that, it seems like this Pokemon is just going to be fairly tanky. We're going to want to put some defensive investment to balance out the health, and then we'll be good to go. Now, Lantern has the electric water typing, which is one of the best defensive typings in my opinion, that you have just a weakness to ground and grass. Those are the only things that really threaten you. Also, because of Lantern, it has the water absorb or volt absorb ability. So that means you can actually have an immunity to water or electric depending on what your team needs. If you have a lot of electric weakness, you get the Volt Absorb, a lot of water weakness, you get the Water Absorb. Now you will see Volt Absorb more often just because it turns a neutral into an immunity instead of a resisted hit into immunity. So that's just something to consider. Okay, so let's hop into Pokemon Showdown and see how Lantern works. Now, you can think about Lantern like a Rotom Wash that's weak against ground type attacks. That's a very tanky Pokemon, and it does have some offensive capabilities. So think about like a Rotom that's weak against ground type attacks, but can throw out an Ice Beam, while also having its own little forms of disruption. That's kind of like how Lantern wants to operate. They can have Leftovers Protect, that's going to give you a good amount of sustain. You have Scald to burn your opponent, Ice Beam for dragon coverage, and then Charge Beam as your stab and setup move. That you can get pretty offensive on this one, and you're still going to be very frustrating to knock out. Now, for the EVs, I was thinking a Calm Nature, that way we're getting the most out of our special defense, and then not fully investing the hit points. The reason why we don't fully invest in the hit points is because the difference of boosting defenses with EVs as opposed to hit points is much less on one that has a high base. So if you look, we go from 200 to 216, that's not really a lot. That's what, 8%? As opposed to 78 to 95. Much larger difference, so that means we're getting more effective health out of boosting the defense instead of the hit points. And then with the special defense, I was thinking, because we have the opportunity to burn the opponent with Scald, we can just put the rest in the special defense, have the hit points be really high, and then put the rest in the defensive bulk, and then we're about as tanky as we can be, and this is fairly optimized. Protect means that we're going to get a lot of health back from leftovers, and again, we're just going to look for that charge beam boost into coverage, and then we're good to go. Now, Lantern can also just run all offensive moves, being Assault Vest Pokemon, and this is where we can invest more into the hit points, because now our special defense is going to be boosted by Assault Vest, so we want the health to back it up, as well as just fully investing in defense, and now we're just going to be stupid tanky. That if Scald burns, that means we have over 400 hit points, over 400 effective defense, over 300 special defense, and then we can be throwing out some solid hits, so it's pretty much throughout the charge beam, see what happens, and then look for the coverage. Now, since we can't use Protect on the Assault Vest, you can have a fourth move. Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Fire, if you can breed for it, is really nice, and then we can also just put like Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is going to be a stronger stab move that, Charge Beam, that only gets boosted to 75 with stab. Thunderbolt goes way up to 135, so there's a lot more damage, and it's kind of like, oh, Charge Beam got me the boost, now I can use Stab Thunderbolt, and start looking for some good amounts of damage. And because of the Charge Beam, we don't have to always invest in the special attack that, after one Charge Beam boost, we're going to be over 300 special attack, and since Lantern has really good coverage, you might be able to make it work. That if you're a 3-hit KO Pokemon, will Charge Beam into Thunderbolt or Charge Beam into Scald, that has a good chance of knocking out a Pokemon, and then you might be able to get an extra hit in from there. And at least Lantern is doing just more than one. It's 1+, and that's always really good on Lantern. Now when we look at some other things, it's a stockpile Pokemon, guys! Do I need to say more? We go for the stockpile. We try to balance out our defense as much as possible, that way we're a really good mixed tank, A little more in special defense, because again, Scald could still kick in effect, but at the same time, if Scald doesn't work, you still want to be defensive. Boost up huge on the stockpile, get 1 or 2 stockpiles, rest, Chesto Berry, stockpile, Charge Beam until you're stacked, use Scald, burn your opponent, and then just carry from there. I've used this set before with great success, and I've seen this work from fans as well. I believe it was one of the Fan Fridays. This Lantern was like setting up stockpile in double battles, and it was awesome. Speaking of double battles, Lantern is amazing in double battles because it can support many different types of teams. That Volt Absorb and Water Absorb means that if you have an electric type Pokemon, Volt Absorb is going to be awesome for it. If you have a rain or water based team, Water Absorb is going to be also awesome for Lantern, and it just really benefits from either of that. Now in doubles, I was thinking we could run a Shucca Berry, just because Earthquake is more common. You at least remove that super effective ground type for a turn, and then you throw an ice type at that. That Garchomp's gonna be like, well, I'm not worried about Lantern, Earthquake's gonna knock it out, right? It doesn't, Ice Beam KOs Garchomp, and now we're good to go. And then with this, since we're not going to be investing to the hit points, we can just split the defenses. That's kind of it. Now I was thinking we could go Calm Nature instead of Modest, but if you want to run Modest, you can. I would just rather be tankier. And then with this, now that we're getting all this support coming in, we have potential Volt Absorb, or we have potential Water Absorb being procced, and that means we're getting a lot of health back, so we don't have to invest into the health, and then we can start throwing out some good hits. We're throwing out Discharge. Ally has Volt Absorb, well that means you get to discharge them for the heal, and then you also hurt your opponents, or if Water Absorb, you Surf, and then you hurt your opponents, and Lantern just provides that great synergy. That's the Water Electric type that can stab into Volt and Water Absorb. It's ridiculously awesome, and I love it. Now some other potential, Lantern could bring its own rain. This could work in singles, but I'm mostly thinking doubles on this one. Pretty much the same EVs, because think about it. You have just that special attack investment. It doesn't matter if your special attack's only 251. You're going to get a Stab Thunder. That's going to hurt. Hydro Pump is going to be insane. That's Stab plus Rain Dance, so it's 50% boost and a 50% boost. And then Ice Beam, still that great coverage. Now I was thinking Water Absorb with this, because if you bring Rain Dance, that means Swift Swim is going to be awesome. And I was thinking Kingdra. Kingdra on the first turn, you go hit point investment, special attack investment, and you just go hard. Focus energy, then after you have your rain set up, Swift Swim, you're going to be outspeeding a lot of Pokemon. Razor Claw plus that. Now Surf is always going to crit. So 50% plus Stab plus Rain. You're just going to be obliterating your opponents while healing up your Lantern really well. Draco Meteor isn't affected, and then you have Protect for the Mind Games. Now I know that you do want to go for like crit Kingdra with a Sniper ability, but that's not what this is about. This is about Swift Swim, and this is still about pumping out ridiculous damage while being fairly tanky. You know, Lantern can still throw out Thunder and Hydro Pump on this, and that's why we want to be running it. Now if you don't want to play that 80% accuracy risk game, you can always use Scald. A little bit less damage, still has that chance to burn, and it's just really looking for that extra coverage that Kingdra needs. But if you think about it, you know, between Hydro Pump, Draco Meteor, and all those other fun stuff heading into your opponent's way, and it's not just Kingdra, any Swift Swim Pokemon is going to work with it, so that's just like, you know, if you can get Surf into Lantern, that's great. If you have another Water Absorb Pokemon, you're just throwing out Surfs on each other, you can get some ridiculous healing, and that's why we can also look at some other items, you know. If you're not running Shucca Berry, you can have a Citrus Berry, that way Lantern can get half of its health back in one turn. That's pretty insane. And that's kind of all there is to it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, Lantern, Pokemon with a ton of potential, very tanky, very underrated. So go try it out and see how it goes. I think it can be pretty solid. So if you guys enjoyed the video, I hope you all have a nice day.
Thinking about how hard you hit. I'm gonna bust you out. I must break you. It's about how hard you can get hit. And keep moving.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and I'm honestly incredibly torn right now. I am in awe of how good this strategy is. I want to hold this strategy for myself and keep it away from you guys so I can go and unveil it at Nationals next year and maybe even win with it. That this is that scary of a strategy. I've been testing it out. I've never felt something so solid. Something with so many options in my entire Pokemon career. And it's astonishing. But here's the thing. I've been 100% like transparent with all my strategies. I haven't been holding anything back. Whenever I find something incredible, you know, I show it to you guys and I see if you guys can take it to the next level. And this is something else. So, Matt, you are amazing because when I first heard the strategy, I thought it was really good. And after testing it, like, this is god tier strategy right here. Like, this is just unstoppable almost from what I've experienced, and it's just a truly incredible strategy. So Matt is a patron that, you know, he donated $20 that lets him get a strategy review, and he gave me the strategy to review. It's amazing. I still am in just awe, amazement the more I understand this strategy. So it's Spinda, and it's Skill Swap Contrary Spinda. On the surface, that doesn't seem like... I've looked into this before. I've thought, like, hey, how would Contrary work on other Pokemon? And it didn't click for me, quite like it did for Matt. And I even have Choice Scarf on it. And Choice Scarf is one of the best options. I was thinking without Choice Scarf, you know, what other things you could do with it. Because you have Fake Tears. Fake Tears, you can use it on your ally, and you lower their special defense, which actually boosts their special defense because of the way that, you know, Contrary works. I was like, okay, that's a good idea. But Choice Scarf skill swaps create so many dynamics, create so many options that the most crazy things have happened. So let's get more into the meat of this strategy. That's Arcanine. If someone told me without like going into any depth of the strategy that they say, okay, Arcanine and Spinda are the strongest combo in the game, I would look at them like they're mad. But it's the strongest combo I've ever seen in the game. So we have Arcanine using close combat. And here's the beauty of it, that Contrary close combat is a free stockpile while doing damage. Lowers user defense and special defense by 1, not with Contrary. And that's what this all boils down to, is that first turn, use skill swap, Arcanine does close combat, and then you proceed to just win from there. You have the Intimidate ability, which makes it even more incredible, that Arcanine comes out, intimidates the opponents. After that, you skill swap, so Spinda intimidates the opponents. Then you skill swap your opponent, and they intimidate your Arcanine, which boosts its attack. The amount of speed that this strategy has, that the amount of tankiness and durability that this strategy has, and the amount of diversity you can put into this strategy, that you also run Overheat, which raises your special attack by 2. So you close combat to get your defenses up, you overheat until you become a special attacking monster, and then you have Morning Sun for sustain. I can't put it into words how amazing this is. So on top of that, you can also play around with the dynamics. This is the best EV spread that you can have for making it just defensive, well-rounded. Now you can also look at it in other ways. You're intimidating your opponents, which means your physical defense their physical attacks aren't doing as much, so you don't need as much defense. And maybe you could worry about buffing up your special attack or special defense, because they're already losing half their attack from just the skill swap right there, and it's just insane, and I just can't get over it. Now, the original strategy did have a Choppleberry, Berry, I guess, to reduce fighting type attacks for Spinda. The Choice Scarf is my own personal flair, and it became even stronger than I could ever imagine, so I don't even know what's next for this strategy. Like, what could it add to the layers of the strategy to make it even stronger? I am just completely blown away right now by how good this thing is, and it keeps going. So I was thinking, okay, let's pull up a list of close combat Pokemon and find out which ones work. Mega Pinsir is an insane Pokemon for the strategy. It gets superpower and close combat. So what you do is you close combat, and then you get superpower boosts, and that's just how it is. Your quick attacks are still going to do a lot of damage. You have Earthquake as coverage, and when Pinsir Mega Evolves, it gets insane stats. So I mean, Arcanine has good hit points and good defenses, but I mean, Mega Pinsir has 120 defense and 90 special defense. I was thinking go with the Adamant Nature just to go with the bulk in your attack and go 2v2, 2v2, because the defense is already really high, and that's some scariness right there. Let's see, 276, 279 versus, yeah, 257 max. Like, that's good. That's good. That's scary. That's strong. I've used it. Like, the thing is, whenever I see a Azumarill, or whenever I see a heavy water-type team, I end up bringing Mega Pinsir, and it still works really well because it's close combat for defenses, superpower. It doesn't have the sustain, but it's still terrifying. After that, I was thinking, okay, how do I make this into a real team? Like, this is doubles. You're going to need some backup Pokemon. I was thinking Greninja and Meowstic. Meowstic uses Reflect and Light Screen, gives you even more defenses, makes you even tankier because now you're taking even less. Thunder Wave to support your slow speed since you're not putting any speed investment, and Fake Out to buy you an extra turn of close combat. The strategy is, I can't say insane enough. This is mind-breakingly strong, and that like I can't even on how good it is. Then you have Greninja just for fast special sweepy coverage. It's just so good. You also have Map Block on Greninja because it's fast and it buys you another turn of close combat, or yeah, it buys you another close combat. I can't. Like, I think I came up with kind of the best way to make this strategy work, because generally Spinda's done in the first couple turns, and then I just try to support from there. I don't really know what else could be done. Like, you want to run Spinda and Arcanine, or Spinda and Mega Pinsir. You don't put both of those together. After that, you need supportive Pokemon, and you're good to go. I was also looking into Machamp. Machamp isn't the strongest that I was thinking it would be, but still, its Rest Talk with Close Combat and Fire Punch is still really strong. I just can't compare to this Arcanine. It's so good. Machamp is still good, though. Like, I mean, that Citrus Berry proc is going to keep you alive as you close combat. Machamp is really good for defenses, has strong hit points, a little more defenses than Arcanine even. And actually, I think overall its stats are, yeah, its stats are a bit better overall, but it just doesn't have that overheat. It doesn't have that offense boost, which is what I feel makes Arcanine even stronger. But overall, like, you got a lot of craziness going on right here. So that's Spinda. My God, the scariest Pokemon in doubles when played like this. I swear. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I'm blown away. I hope you guys have a nice day.
At Wayfair, we get pretty excited about furniture. Around here, it's not a patio, it's patio.
Oh, I love those chairs.
Shed-tastic.
Let's go. This rocks.
My queen.
Yeah?
Oh, I'm at the bed.
Girl, you nailed it!
No, this set, it's just a couple of screws.
They're a perfect combo. They got a fire pit.